A trend of fake degrees in Zimbabwe is becoming unbecoming, particularly fake PhDs. First, it was Magaya, and then businessman come MP Timburwa, and now currently the ICT minister, Dr. Tatenda Mavetera, or should I even call her a doctor? Even Kasukwere's friend, Walter Muzembi, has also been sucked into this scandal with allegations of having graduated from a university that doesn't exist. At some point, Dr. Muzembi will probably come out to either defend himself or clear the air, just like Dr. Magaya did, just like Dr. Timburwa did, just like Dr. Mavetera is doing. Therefore, kupedza nyaya yema-fake doctorate, let's just agree as a country kuti Zimbabwe has only ever had 2 real doctors, and these are Dr. Love, Paul Matavire, and of course, Dr. Vemagitar, Freeman HKD. Mamwe ese ma doctor yenyu haya, they're fakey. And speaking of fake, take a look at this post by Job Scholar. He uploaded a picture that was generated by AI and then claimed that it's a photo that was taken in his friend's office. He even thanks his friend, Hanzi, thank you Bururu. Honorable Job Scholar, what in the English vocabulary of Chinotimba were you trying to do here? We'll just give you the benefit of the doubt and say that you were joking. But next time, if you're gonna post a joke on social media, please insert some laughing emojis. It's the thank you Bururu for me. But speaking of my Bururu, ED now has new Bururus. They are called Persuaders for ED, a brand new praise and worship group whose bootlicking skill deserves a place in the Guinness Book of Records. One of the drivers of this group is this guy, Douglas Mahia, who is responsible for War Veterans Affairs in the Politburo. He, together with many other close Mnangagwa loyalists, has been going around the country bribing war veterans under the so-called Presidential War Veterans Fund, which is basically ED's way of pacifying war veterans and alienating them from the Geza faction. So, this group, Persuaders for ED, says that its goal is to persuade ED to go for the 3rd term, which he claims to be not interested in, despite not doing anything to put an end to that madness. Furthermore, the people driving the 2030 agenda are not ordinary citizens, no. The 2030 agenda is being driven by the same people ED appointed to bribe war veterans under the Presidential War Veterans Fund. And it just so happens that those people are also his very close allies who sit in very influential positions in both party and government. These are the people who are driving this new praise and worship group called Persuaders for ED. What a coincidence. So, effectively, Mnangagwa, the constitutionalist, will have to persuade the persuaders not to persuade him to go for the 3rd term. How convenient. My only question is that, what if the 2030 brigade actually pulls it off? Of course, right now, it's highly unlikely, but hypothetically, what if they actually pulled it off and amended the constitution? Would Mnangagwa still say no after the constitution has been amended, making it possible for him to remain president beyond 2028? Would he really keep saying no? Are Zimbabweans not being huku-winged here? Well, fellow Sadzaitas, slay queens and bingers, socialites, papalites, vasinamalites, varikudya rice, nevasinama rights. Welcome to the special report. The senior leadership of ZANU-PF is trying by all means to present a united front despite the publicly invisible fire which has caused the smoke that we are all seeing. But as we behold this smoke, we are reminded of the fact that there is no smoke without fire. Well, of course, in our case, we can't see the fire, but we do feel the heat. So surely, if we can feel the heat and see and smell the smoke, then it can't be criminal to conclude that there is fire in the building. ZANU-PF is currently going through what Robert Mugabe once called a moment of madness. A silly season of unnecessary political contestation born out of ED's unnecessary and unwarranted 2030 project, which he pretends to dislike during the day but schemes for it under the cover of darkness. This has created the unintended consequence of unending bickering, with party members openly fighting. Dissenting voices are growing louder, and the party's dirty laundry is constantly finding its way onto social media, giving free content to thousands of unemployed Zimbabweans who have now become content creators. Yes, the whole country is now full of content creators. In short, my content creator awanda kudarika vanhu muZimbabwe. No wonder there is so much misinformation and fake news. There are some who deliberately lie daily on social media, and unassuming citizens then latch onto those lies and begin to spread them around. And before you know it, a narrative has been created. Beware of fake news. Don't just believe anything you see on social media. Even after watching my videos, take your time to verify whether what Tafi the man is saying is correct. That's how much I value integrity. Don't give social media liars any second of your time, especially on sensitive topics like this. Nowadays, everyone on social media is a journalist. And still on the subject of social media, ZANU-PF, in a bid to control dissenting voices, has tightened its grip on all things social media insofar as the ZANU-PF comms are concerned. All ZANU-PF WhatsApp groups and social media platforms will now be closely monitored and managed by the senior party leadership, some of whom don't even have a single social media account. Yeah, way to go ZANU-PF. But on the real though, ZANU-PF is taking this social media thing very seriously now, because it has finally realized that the mainstream media has lost ground to social media insofar as reach and engagement are concerned. Unfortunately for them, they can't tightly control social media the way they control the ZBC. And so, they have resorted to bullying content creators into submission. And to this end, this guy, Dara B, a Blessed Muhlanga of Heart and Soul TV, a man who brought you the Geza interviews, is now fearing for his life. He has been summoned by the police at least 3 times now on allegations of contravening Section 164 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act, which prohibits the act of illegally accessing someone's computer and infecting it with a virus. Now, it's not clear how Blessed Mhlanga broke this law by simply doing his job, but as we all know, if the system really wants to deal with you, you can be made to be guilty of any crime. I mean, vakachimasta jigemich. And now to the main story. Is President Mnangagwa sincere when he says he doesn't want a 3rd term? Well, my fellow Sazaitas, some of us are students of history. My Form 1 teacher taught me that history is the study of past actions in order to predict the future. I now realize that he was kinda right. Because you see, history has one big weakness. It tends to repeat itself a lot. Everything ED is doing today, he has always done it. People are just not observant. Or maybe they just choose not to be observant. Who remembers the Tsholotsho Declaration of 2004? How that 6 provincial chairpersons of ZANU-PF, together with other various party bigwigs like Chinamasa and Jonathan Moyo, gathered in Tsholotsho to discuss, amongst other things, the elevation of Mnangagwa to the position of vice president, filling in the vacancy which had been created by the death of Simon Muzenda. The meeting also talked about the need to end the dominance of one ethnic group in national politics and to make it so that all the major ethnic groups in Zimbabwe have a representation in the top 4 leadership positions of ZANU-PF. To this end, they agreed to nominate Mugabe as president, representing the Zezuru, Mnangagwa as VP, representing the Karanga, Tenjuele Sabe as second VP, representing the Ndebele, and Patrick Chinamasa as national chairperson, representing the Manyika. But when this plan was exposed, Mnangagwa threw all of them under the bus. He denied any knowledge or involvement. This is what caused the beef between ED and Professor Jonathan Moyo. ED repeated the same thing again in 2016-2017 when Jonathan Moyo produced the Blue Ocean documentary, which exposed how Mnangagwa was planning a coup d'etat against Robert Mugabe. But he denied any knowledge of it. When people like Godfrey Tsinengamu openly campaigned for him, earning themselves expulsion from the party and jail time, ED threw them under the bus. In fact, in July 2016, Mnangagwa actually invited the ZBC to his offices and went on a long and winding speech about his relationship with Robert Mugabe and how it was impossible for him to plot against Robert Mugabe. Actually, to quote his actual words, Mnangagwa said, "I have never at any time directly or indirectly established, formed, convened, or sought to benefit from the alleged grouping Lacoste or any other such groupings. Let it not be forgotten that both during my incarceration for a period of 10 years, from 1965 to 1974, and after my release in 1974, I have always had a personal relationship with the president, Comrade R.G. Mugabe, who to me is not just a father figure, but a principal mentor, after whom I fashion all my political behavior." Yet, after all that, he staged a coup d'etat a year later. He is calculating and he is very cunning. That is his modus operandi. Everything ED is doing today, he has always done it. However, what stood out for me as I pondered on this issue is, well, the similarities between Zimbabwe and Uganda, or rather more precisely, between Museveni and Mnangagwa. For those of you who might not know, President Museveni of Uganda has been in power since 1986. He came to power after leading an armed resistance which violently removed the Milton Obote regime. Though Museveni took power in 1986, the first democratic elections under him were actually held in 1996, which became Museveni's first term. He was re-elected in 2001 for his second term. So before and after the 2001 elections, Museveni repeated time and again that he would step down in 2006 as required by the Ugandan constitution, which at the time only provided for 2 terms. He famously said, "I will follow the constitution of Uganda. I am the one who wrote that constitution. I will abide by it." Those are the words of Museveni. But if you're Zimbabwean, do you not find those words kind of familiar to you? See, just because Mnangagwa has on many occasions said he doesn't want a 3rd term, doesn't really mean that he actually doesn't want it. No. Words are cheap and politicians are professional liars, all of them without exception. Don't look at what Mnangagwa says. Look at what he does. Actions speak louder than words. Sometimes, silence can be louder than 1,000 voices. I have just given you the example of Uganda. How Museveni fooled the whole nation of Uganda into believing that he would step down at the end of his 2nd term as required by that country's constitution at the time. But as the 2006 election approached, Museveni amended the constitution and removed term limits. To make this happen, MPs were reportedly given $3,000 each, though the government claimed that the money was for the purpose of helping MPs in their consultations with the people. So, Museveni was able to amend the Ugandan constitution, and as he ran for the third time, a dynasty was effectively created. To date, he is in his sixth term. Next year, Uganda will hold elections. Museveni will either run for the seventh time or hand over power to his son, who is also the commander of the Ugandan military. And oh, did I mention that Museveni's wife, Janet, is the Minister of Education? Uganda is effectively a family business. That is the danger of allowing a president to remove term limits. It's a recipe for disaster in Africa. It always ends in tears. So, let those who have ears listen, and may those who have eyes see that Mnangagwa is doing a Museveni on Zimbabwe. Because just like Museveni, Mnangagwa claims that he is the one who wrote the Zimbabwean constitution and that he will abide by it. Yet, he refuses to call to order those who are pushing this third-term agenda. He is very vocal against those who are resisting the 2030 agenda but remains silent on those who are calling for him to stay on. What is good for the goose must be good for the gander. If he is going to punish the anti-2030 noisemakers, he must also punish the pro-2030 noisemakers. His inability to do this tells you that he is either silently cheering on the 2030s or they are acting on his instructions. Both scenarios show that he wants the third term. The only issue is how to go about it. But whatever happens, I'll be here to marinate you with all the details without fear or favor, because on this platform, we say it as it is. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy the content, please like and share.